Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We begin tonight with a special election and primaries in 6 states. In the key battleground state of Wisconsin, the progressive candidate in the Democratic gubernatorial primary, State Assemblywoman Francesca Hong, is locked in a tight race with Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, endorsed by outgoing Governor Tony Evers. The winner will take on Tom Tiffany, who won the Republican primary tonight. Another race we're watching closely is a special election in South Carolina to replace Senator Lindsey Graham, who passed away 1 month ago today. The top two vote getters in a field of 10 Republicans were Graham's sister, Darlene Graham, and U.S. Representative Ralph Norman. Norman spoke to supporters a short time ago.
This is a time to come together, folks. We've got to all coalesce, come together, because we have got some socialist Democrats we have got to beat. There's no way.
With most of the vote in, Darlene Graham, who had the backing of President Trump, has 33% of the vote to Norman's 24%. State rules dictate a runoff when no candidate gets at least 50% of the vote. Graham had this to say earlier to supporters.
I want to say that this is a very emotional night because I'm usually standing here celebrating with Lindsey. So I know he's looking down right now, smiling though, so that gives me peace, but it's difficult.
And in Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz decided not to run for a third term. That left the door open tonight for Senator Amy Klobuchar to win the Democratic gubernatorial primary. She, too, spoke a short time ago.
As the daughter of a teacher and a newspaperman, and as the first woman elected to the United States Senate from the state of Minnesota, with your support, the first woman elected to the governor of Minnesota.
Lots of excitement there. Let's bring in ABC News political director Avery Harper for more. So, Avery, as early results can come in for the Democratic gubernatorial primary in Wisconsin, the moderate Democrat David Crowley is in a tight race with progressive Francesca Hong. What are we watching for there?
Yeah, this is a lot closer than I think a lot of people thought it would be at this point in the night. And the race and the margins in this race are super thin, with Francesca Hong, the Democratic Socialist, and David Crowley really neck and neck in this race. I've been looking at some of the largest counties in the state of Wisconsin. Milwaukee is the absolute largest. It is the foundation of Democratic voters in the state of Wisconsin. And that's also where David Crowley is the county executive. He is leading there, but only by a hair. It's only by a sliver of the vote. And then when you look to Dane County, that is the progressive bedrock of Wisconsin. It's home to the University of Wisconsin at Madison. And you see Francesca Hong, she's leading there by a little bit wider of a margin. But then you look at Waukesha County, which is the suburbs of Milwaukee, and that is where you see the more moderate David Crowley. He is beating out Francesca Hong by a margin of more than 10 points right now, with still some vote outstanding there. So this is going to be a real nail biter. We're going to have to watch really closely to see what happens, not only in the biggest counties in the state, but also in some of these more rural parts as well.
But really astonishing, with 70% of the vote in, just about 1,000 vote margin that he has currently. Republican Congressman Ralph Norman will advance to a runoff in South Carolina's special primary election for late Senator Lindsey Graham's seat. He'll go up against Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene Graham. President Trump, of course, endorsed her. How much of an edge does that give her?
Listen, when we look at some of these Republican primaries that we have seen this cycle, we know that the endorsement of President Trump is an incredibly powerful force in Republican politics. But what voters have essentially said in the state of South Carolina is that the endorsement of President Trump is not all that they're looking for. Darlene Graham was up against numerous other Republicans with much more experience in elected office. And so it'll be interesting to see exactly how voters proceed when they get to that runoff, when they have a binary choice between Norman, who is very conservative. He is someone who is involved in leadership in the House Freedom Caucus, and Darlene Graham, who, of course, has the name and the endorsement of President Trump. And
we've also seen a number of incumbents lose races this primary season. And tonight we have another 14-term Congressman John Larson has lost his race to Luke Brown and the former mayor of Hartford. What does that tell you?
I think this is as much a story about the erosion of the power of incumbency as it is about a desire for a change of generation in leadership within the Democratic Party. I think there was a lot of soul searching being done through the party after we saw President Biden bow out of the race back in 2024. And I think this is an indication and an example of voters opting for a younger viewpoint and a different viewpoint as they look ahead to 2026.
All right, Avery, thank you so much for joining us throughout the night. And for more political analysis of tonight's races, let's turn to ABC News political contributors Christina Sinsoon Ramirez and Sunny Joy Nelson. Thanks so much for coming back on the show. Of course, we're watching the early returns in the Democratic Party in tonight's primary for Wisconsin governor. So far, it's looking like a tight race. Give us a sense, Christina, let's start with you for what you've observed so far and what you're watching for.
Well, I think in this race and the race we saw in Michigan, while polls showed us that the progressive candidate was far above in the lead, that actually on election night, it's been much closer. So while we still don't know the results, the very fact that Francesca Hong has been thrust into being a top contender or possibly the ultimate candidate is huge for progressives, especially coming off of the win in Michigan for progressives. And I think ultimately what the Democratic Party has to do is build a big enough tent to actually respond to how insurgent candidates are winning. And they're winning and being competitive by building huge volunteer teams, speaking to bold economic populist vision, and more than anything, refusing to accept corporate PAC donations and contending with AIPAC. And that, I think, is making people believe, again, in candidates and democracy and our government to actually deliver for working people instead of big moneyed interests.
Sunny, how about for you? Any takeaways initially for tonight?
Yeah, well, I will say that Wisconsin is a little bit surprising. Of course, we have a tight race going on right now. I think it goes to show that the Democratic Party truly is having an identity crisis right now. You have two separate wings of the party, one that wants to embrace these radical socialist platforms and expand the party to bring in all of these policies that do not really jive with the American people and what the general electorate want for their communities. And then you have the more moderate side, and that's what we're seeing play out right now. I'm very interested to see and ultimately who will take home the primary victory tonight. I have a gut feeling that Francesca Hahn is going to be the one that gets the victory tonight, but we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. And then in terms of South Carolina, with the runoff that's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks, I would anticipate that we will see Darlene Graham pull through and get the nomination there, as she has the support of the president and she has the backing of all those that supported her brother. And of course, this is a very sensitive time for her. So my prayers go out to her and her family as they're going through this tonight.
And Christina, Sunny just mentioned that she actually thinks that Hung will squeak it out ultimately. This is a tight race, neck and neck. We saw a little while ago just a spread of about 2,000 votes. Do you think that brings you any concern about her electability in November, especially since prominent progressives like Bernie Sanders didn't endorse her?
Wisconsin is a battleground state. And I think we're in these key battleground states, more than anything, people are looking for fighters, for people that are going to deliver on the economy. And I think that's why she's gotten as far as she has, a candidate that doesn't have the same resources, doesn't have the backing of the establishment, and doesn't even have the backing of some other major progressive candidates. But what we have seen time and again is progressive candidates build real grassroots power and ultimately be able to shift the course in their favor. And I will say, I think we're Democrats overall. Sunny said Democrats are having an identity crisis. I would disagree, but where I would agree with Sunny is that there's no identity issue within the Republican Party, because the Republican Party is Donald Trump. And good luck to Republicans this midterm tying themselves to an absolutely disfavored president that has some of the most abysmal approval ratings we've ever seen in American history. And the number one issue that he said he was going to address was the economy. And most Americans believe he's doing an abysmal job on addressing their economic needs.
Sonny, I'll give you a chance to respond there, but also ask you how Republicans will try and take advantage of so many more progressive candidates on the ballot in a number of these battleground states.
Sure. Well, I would say that the choice is very clear this November for Republicans. It is a vote for safety, security, and low taxes. It is a vote for a secure border, for deportations of violent, illegal criminals. It is a vote for low taxes. These are things that Democrats overall as a party have resoundingly rejected. And now with their embrace of radical socialism, they're taking it a step further, where they're even saying, let's abolish ICE, let's abolish the police department. These are policies that will ultimately result in anarchy. These are not policies that suburban women are going to feel comfortable with when what they care about is the safety of their children, the safety of their children going to the playground, walking around on the sidewalk. Those are things that women, that the true American people are going to be voting on this November. And in terms of the president and his promises, I will say that the president does what is overall good for the American people. Maybe not what's good politically at the exact moment, good for his poll numbers, but he does what's good for the American people. When you look at Iran, this is something that for decades, politicians in Washington have said that they're going to take on Iran and make sure that they don't have a nuclear weapon. It's never happened. President Trump is the first one to step up and hold Iran accountable and say you cannot have a nuclear weapon for the safety of America, but also the entire world. And ultimately, we know that President Trump created the hottest economy in modern history during his first term. There's a lot that we've had to undo in this second term that was happened under the Biden administration. So I think as the next couple months really start going, we will see the economy continue to turn around. We will see gas prices fall, and that's what voters will remember this November.
12 more weeks until Election Day. We will see ultimately how the voters decide then. Sonny, Christina, we so appreciate your time and insight. Now to that secret operation to sneak President Trump off of Air Force One into a catering truck, eventually flying from Turkey to England on a smaller military jet. The switch was made to avoid a possible attack on the aircraft by Iran. Tonight, we're learning that cabinet members Scott Bessent and Marco Rubio were on board the decoy plane after President Trump switched aircraft and were aware of the switch. ABC's Mary Bruce has the latest from the White House.
Tonight, the unprecedented secret mission to keep the president safe from a possible Iranian assassination attempt. It was at the NATO summit in Turkey last month, just days after the U.S. restarted strikes against Iran. The president saying this at the time.
They want to take out the U.S. leader, me. I'm on every list.
The concern so high that Iran could target the president on Air Force One on his trip home, a decision was made that the new plane gifted from Qatar wasn't safe enough. Sources at the time saying it was out of an abundance of caution. The president's staff and press seen boarding the old Air Force One instead. But the Washington Post now reports that the president immediately sneaked off the plane and onto a catering truck that whisked him off to a smaller military jet. In video from that day, you see the president boarding with a wave. But as the camera pulls back, there's a catering truck below. 5 minutes later, the press seen boarding the back of the plane as that catering truck pulls away, reportedly with the president concealed inside. That truck then spotted pulling up behind another military aircraft parked behind Air Force One. Staff and the press then taking off, completely unaware that the president is not on board, and they are acting as decoys. The plan so elaborate, the president reportedly slipped back onto Air Force One during a stopover in England, before he's seen disembarking as if he'd been on board the whole time, then switching back to his new plane for the rest of the ride home. On board that final leg, Trump speaking with the press. Reporters asking why they had been directed by White House aides to close their window shades on the flight out of Turkey.
Do you know why they had us close our window blinds? That was not usual. Well, yeah, because you're probably on a dangerous flight because of the sleaze bags that we have to deal with.
Trump then pressed about a possible threat from Iran.
Were you aware of any credible
number one on their list before you. But if I go, you go, right?
What was their specific
perhaps someday you want to change professions.
Tonight, it's still not clear how serious that threat on the president's safety was that led to this elaborate ruse. Presidents have traveled covertly before, most often in and out of war zones, their movements concealed for their protection, and always with some awareness by the press.
This type of a protective move is usually done with the utmost secrecy. Very few people actually know what happens, and it really goes to the secret in the Secret Service.
A well-known secret now. Mary Bruce joins us from the White House. Mary, has the White House confirmed that the president was in fact removed from Air Force One?
Lindsay, the White House tonight is neither confirming nor denying this operation to protect the president by concealing him in that catering truck. But in a statement, they acknowledge that, quote, there are many enemies of America who have their sights on the president, and we use every tool at our disposal to address those threats. Lindsay.
All right, Mary Bruce for us. Thanks so much, Mary. Tornado warnings and severe storms are sweeping across several states tonight. The images of a reported tornado in Chicago are coming in. Winds tore down trees and power lines, leaving hundreds of thousands without power in Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Powerful winds flipped over a car in Columbus, Ohio. No word on the driver's condition. These storms are moving from the Midwest into the East Coast. Thousands of flights have been delayed or canceled. Our Ginger Z has the forecast. But first, Alex Perez reports from Chicago.
Tonight, driving rain and powerful winds, strong enough to hurl a car across an interstate as a massive line of storms tears through major cities in the heartland. A shaking traffic camera catching that terrifying moment on Interstate 71 in Columbus, Ohio. Watch as one vehicle is lifted off the ground and flipped right there. No word yet on that driver. Not far from there, Christina Alves says it felt like her neighborhood took a direct hit.
It was like a freight train, just like people say.
Floodwaters covering these cars all the way to their roofs. Ohio authorities say one person was killed east of Columbus in the town of Roseville. Tornado sirens wailing in downtown Chicago. Trees snapping in this front yard in Hobart, Indiana. Roofs shredded, trees down, power lines tangled all over Chicagoland. Air traffic controllers at Chicago's Midway Airport forced to seek shelter. Listen.
We're going to evacuate the tower here shortly. I got you all in a place that you can hold.
Hundreds of thousands without power across the region. In Portage, Indiana, at least one person was killed after this house exploded during the storms.
And Alex joins us now from Chicago. And Alex, judging from the scene where you are, I imagine that storm cleanup is going to take a while.
Yeah, Lindsay, it has started, but it will in fact take a while. There are down trees like this one all over the Chicago area. And I want you to take a look at that image again in Columbus. The same storm, winds so strong it flipped that car in Columbus. You can see that on the road there. Now, there are some 500,000 customers without power here in the Chicago area alone as this vicious storm now makes its way east. Lindsay?
All right, Alex for us there in Chicago. Thanks so much, Alex. Let's get right to ABC Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z. Ginger, what are you watching for?
Well, Lindsay, we have a little shower here, but nothing compared to that nasty line that is now moving through Kentucky and West Virginia with severe thunderstorms on it. This is the same line that had 97-mile-per-hour wind gusts in Sugar Grove, Illinois, west of Chicago. So you'll still have the potential for warnings, tornadoes embedded too, possibly, but mostly damaging wind in excess of 75 miles per hour. Flood watches for much of West Virginia into Appalachia there in Virginia itself to near Roanoke, because you could have 2-inch-per-hour rainfall rates. Believe it or not, the same area is going to get hit again tomorrow. The main hazard will again be wind. And so Lincoln, Illinois, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Louisville, and Cincinnati all make their way back in that level 2 out of 5. Go back to Kearney or Valentine, Nebraska, parts of South Dakota, just south and east of Rapid City, and you'll add hail on top of the damaging wind as a hazard. So let's talk about part of the fuel, and that would be heat and humidity. There are extreme heat warnings from St. Louis back to Tulsa up to Kansas City. Those are for feels likes upwards of 110. But take a place like Oklahoma City, Lindsay, who has spent already 16 days at 100 degrees plus this season. That is above their average, and they've got a whole week of 100 plus ahead of them. Lindsay.
No respite just yet. All right, Ginger, thank you. The U.S. has sent a disaster response team to Colombia as the country deals with the aftermath of a deadly earthquake. Rescuers pulled a baby alive from under the rubble of an apartment building. Firefighters are still desperately searching for more survivors, and the death toll is rising with more than 250 people killed. Faith Abube has the latest from Colombia.
Tonight, miracles in the rubble. Rescuers carefully pulling this newborn baby out alive from a collapsed 5-story building in Cali, Colombia. Incredibly, that baby boy suffering only minor cuts and bruises. His mother also survived. Signs of hope 24 hours after the most powerful earthquake to hit Colombia in a decade toppled buildings and caused major devastation. And tonight, with the death toll soaring past 200, it's a desperate race against time to find survivors.
And right now, we're in the middle of an army of community volunteers. They've been working nonstop, digging through this rubble with their bare hands and buckets. Every few minutes, they call for silence so they can hear if there are any survivors.
Josh Martinez from Los Angeles rushed here to help.
Everybody wants to help. And that's the thing. You see everybody here, just they want to help. They want to help. There's some people that have family members that are trapped under there, and you see them on the top.
Our thanks to Faith for that. Now to the latest on the war with Iran. Today, a U.S. military helicopter fired multiple missiles at a Panamanian cargo ship accused of breaking the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports. Meanwhile, Iranian officials said the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until the U.S. meets all of their demands. Our chief international correspondent, James Longman, has more. James?
Lindsay, tonight there's been a major escalation with Iran and their proxies in the region on 2 major international shipping lanes. CENTCOM said earlier today U.S. forces disabled a cargo vessel which was trying to break the U.S. blockade on Iranian ports near the Strait of Hormuz. A U.S. Navy MH-60 helicopter fired 2 Hellfire missiles into the engine room of the ship after the civilian crew ignored repeated warnings from American forces. All this is part of the White House plan to exert economic pressure on Tehran and force a negotiation. But tonight in the Red Sea, Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen attacked a cargo ship, killing 6 crew members. Another global shipping route vital to the world economy, now also in the firing line. Lindsay.
James, thank you. Now to the growing water crisis in Puerto Rico. People forced to go without running water due to the severe drought there. FEMA is now providing water trailers for those in need. Victor Kendo has more from Puerto Rico.
Tonight, the state of emergency in Puerto Rico intensifying, as hundreds of thousands of people, including in the capital of San Juan, have to go without running water for 48 hours at a time under a mandatory rationing system. The island facing a crippling drought compounded by a notoriously aging water infrastructure. Levels at the Carraízo Reservoir, critical to San Juan, dangerously low. A couple visiting from Virginia telling me their hotel warned them about the water shortage.
We were told to take shorter showers, brushing our teeth, cut it off when you're brushing.
Residents filling large bottles at water tanker trucks delivered by the National Guard.
So you haven't had water for 7 days?
Yeah. Others strapping blue plastic barrels full of water to their vehicles. July was the driest month on record for San Juan in more than 120 years. Nearly 68% of Puerto Rico now experiencing moderate to exceptional drought. Tonight, this dog rescue without running water, already using reserve tanks.
It's hard because, you know, when you open that faucet and it doesn't come out.
And Lindsay, officials have not said when the 48-hour water rationing schedule will end. Lindsay?
Victor, thank you. In the Wisconsin Republican governor primary, ABC News can project Congressman Tom Tiffany will win and continue on the general election in November. Results on the Democratic side still coming in. And still ahead tonight, National Guard troops have been deployed in Washington, D.C. for a year. Our Alex Perche is embedded with the Guard to see what a day on the streets look like.
What I hope you see is a good bit of boredom, right? Because that means our presence is working. That means that the mission is working.
Plus, a new report reveals shocking disparities in pregnancy care depending on where you live. The huge swaths of the United States that are lacking needed doctors and facilities. And a prediction market faces a lawsuit over one of their new betting categories. The Kalshi bets that could be going away soon, coming up. Welcome back, everyone. It has been 1 year since President Trump declared a national crime emergency in Washington, D.C., and deployed thousands of National Guard troops into the city. It was an unprecedented order. No National Guard domestic deployment has lasted longer in U.S. history. In tonight's Prime Focus, Alex Brachet takes a rare ride along with the D.C. National Guard commander, who talks candidly about the mission 1 year in.
This has become the routine for Brigadier General Leland Blanchard. Making the rounds in the evening is what he calls the best part of his day. General Blanchard oversees the National Guard mission in Washington, D.C.
Let's go to work.
And today, he let us tag along.
You're getting a chance to see the mission firsthand, and
Absolutely.
And that's part of this as well.
It is, and so that feedback is critical.
Our first stop, away from all the tourist sites, deep in southeast D.C., Anacostia Station.
Walk me through, what does the mission look like here?
Our mission right here is really about creating presence, deterring,
making babies smile, helping a wheelchair passenger get to where he's going, and cracking jokes with Metro riders, all a part of the mission here. But Blanchard says the Guard assists with life-saving medical aid too.
Very soon we'll hit 900 medical interventions, and it ranges from CPR to tourniquets for gunshot victims to a lot of lacerations, a number of people that fall.
Back in December, Air National Guard Captain April McClung delivered a baby in a parking lot outside of Walter Reed Medical. On July 29th, Guardsmen were first to respond to a double shooting, and these 3 National Guardsmen from West Virginia gave life-saving first aid to a shooting victim near Union Station. They know they haven't always been popular here.
And I was kind of scared of coming up here, I'm not going to lie to you. I've seen a lot of hatred towards us being here. I've seen a lot of people calling us Nazis and telling us to go home, telling us to kill ourselves. When I got up here, all of those fears went away because I knew that there were people that we were helping.
This is a mission that started a year ago when President Trump declared a national emergency and ordered the Guard to help combat crime in the city.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor.
Since then, their presence has ramped up to some 4,600 troops deployed to work with law enforcement, pick up trash, clean graffiti, help with snow removal, and carry out beautification projects. Their use here hasn't been without controversy. Critics have pointed out that the National Guard is expensive compared to other resources for neighborhood cleanup. A recent analysis found the average guardsman costs $223 more per day than a D.C. police officer. Multiplied by the number of troops in D.C., that's more than $1 million extra per day.
How are you navigating the presence with that sentiment that, look, maybe there are other cost-effective ways here?
Yeah, so as obviously I'm the commanding general of the DC Guard, and I'm the commanding general over this piece of the operation. And so when we talk about what some of those other ways may be, that's really outside of my line of expertise. Our piece is to really get after what we can, which is providing that security, that quick response, and we'll continue to do that.
Another point of contention, scenes like these, Guardsmen standing around. General Blanchard sees this as a sign that they've deterred potential crime.
What I hope you see is a good bit of boredom, right? Because that means our presence is working. That means that the mission is working.
There will be, some residents that say, if there's boredom, it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, no, I can definitely appreciate and understand. I mean, we want to be great stewards and be as efficient as we can with taxpayer dollars.
The general admits it's hard to track stats on crime prevention, but he believes the National Guard is responsible for a sharp decline in violent crime. Critics will point to stats from Metro Police, which showed violent crime in 2024 was down 35%, a 30-year low, and continued to trend down before the Guard was deployed. New data from the U.S. Marshals shows in the last year there have been more than 16,000 arrests with 35 homicide suspects caught and more than 2,000 illegal firearms seized since the Guard's deployment. There's also the issue of Guard safety. Last November, a gunman opened fire on National Guardsmen steps from the White House. 20-year-old Specialist Sarah Beckstrom was killed. Air Force Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf was critically injured in the ambush.
How is Staff Sergeant Wolf doing?
Yeah, so we get a chance to talk to the Wolf family, and recently got a chance to see Andy. I don't know how to describe it other than truly a miracle. That first night, I don't know that I had any expectation I know that I did not believe that we would be here. And every step of the way, that young man has fought his backside off, and it has been inspiring to this old soldier, certainly, to watch that young airman just work and overcome so many tasks, relearning. He laughs. He's out there doing things that just, my goodness, I'm going to do my best every day to honor Sarah's memory, to honor Andy, and do my best each and every day to do the best job I can as a leader.
This mission will go on through 2029. The Defense Department estimates it will cost another $1.4 billion.
You can never go wrong by doing the right thing.
General Blanchard is well aware of the scrutiny that comes with that price tag. He recently made a deal with a private housing company, Placemaker, to move troops into apartments, saving roughly $90 million on hotels the Guard had previously been housed in. He says he's also focused on expansion, continuing to move out into neighborhoods.
Yeah, so I think it's really continuing to build on what the president has directed us to do, which is to provide a safe environment. So now it's time to move a little bit further out, a little bit further into some of the neighborhoods where, quite frankly, we've been, but maybe not as heavy of a presence.
They're also expanding their emergency response, like carrying Narcan for overdoses. They've already administered some 325 doses.
You are a self-described history buff. It's not lost on me. We're sitting here out on the mall in front of the monument for the 16th president. You know, you're 1 year into this mission. You're reflecting this moment right now. What comes to mind?
Pride and a sense of history, connection. You know, we have the Washington there, the Capitol Dome behind it. Obviously, President Lincoln, who's, you know, at that pivotal point in American history. And then I look at these soldiers and airmen out there, and I realize that they're willing and able, and they raise their right hand to do something amazing. And how powerful is that? Go Dogs.
Our thanks to Alex Prochet for that in-depth report. Coming up, a stricter curfew is proposed for teenagers in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it's ignited a tense debate over public safety and more aggressive policing in the city. And a new report is shining a spotlight on a growing maternal health crisis in the U.S. and how a shortage of resources is putting many women's lives at risk. Welcome back to Prime. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. Severe weather hit the Midwest hard today. At least one tornado was reported in Cook County, 20 miles south of downtown Chicago. Both Midway and O'Hare airports in Chicago had ground stops because of the storms, and Midway's air traffic control tower was evacuated due to tornado warnings in the area. Nearly 1 million customers were left without power across Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. The city of Charlotte, North Carolina, is exploring a stricter curfew for teens. City officials have discussed a proposed 9 p.m. curfew for anyone under the age of 18. Police say the proposed curfew would help them crack down on unauthorized mass gatherings, and that the curfew in place now, which has different rules based on age, is difficult to enforce. Brittany Bolton House, who lost her Miss North Carolina USA title amid allegations of racism and homophobia, is now expected to take legal action against pageant organizers. Her attorney claims that she was targeted because of her Christian faith and conservative political views. ABC News reached out to all parties involved but has yet to hear back. The pageant's runner-up will compete for Miss USA later this month. The Powerball jackpot is now an estimated $1 billion after last night's drawing produced no jackpot winner. Lottery authorities say that they decided to increase the jackpot from $975 million to a full billion after reviewing final ticket sales. The next drawing is Wednesday night. Coming up, the concerning new report on maternity care deserts in the U.S. We look at the issue by the numbers and why the prediction market Kalshi is being sued by FlightAware. Welcome back, everyone. A troubling new report finds that 1 in 3 U.S. counties is a maternity care desert, which means millions of women cannot get the care they need through their pregnancy. Let's examine this new data by the numbers. According to a March of Dimes report, 34.6% of counties qualify as maternity care deserts. These counties are home to 2.4 million women of reproductive age and where roughly 149,000 infants are born each year. An additional 3.4 million women live in counties with low or moderate access. Rural communities bear the heaviest burden. Nearly 58% of rural counties lack an obstetric clinician, compared to about 19% of urban counties, and the situation is only getting worse. Labor and delivery unit closures are ongoing nationwide, with at least 96 reported closures across 35 states between 2024 and early 2026. In nearly 60% of those cases, the closed unit was the only local birthing facility. Residents of maternity care deserts travel about 3 times longer on average than those in counties with full access. Cost is another major barrier. About 1 in 9 women of reproductive age are uninsured, with the highest rates in the South and rural areas. As potential solutions, the report calls for expanded Medicaid coverage and broader investment in mobile health units and community doula programs. With more on all this, let's bring in Dr. Mark Simon. He's a board-certified OBGYN and the chief medical officer at OB Hospitalist Group, which provides expert obstetric care to hospitals throughout the country. Dr. Simon, thanks so much for joining us. This data is alarming. What do you think is driving it?
Thank you for having me tonight. I think, as you mentioned in the data that you expounded upon, there's a lot of factors that lead to these maternity care deserts, whether you can have clinicians in these communities, whether or not the hospitals themselves can stay open, and how they can earn enough money to stay open and keep the units running 24/7.
What are the potential consequences of this lack of maternity care access?
Yeah, I mean, it's a real impact for the women who live in those communities. They have to travel farther. They may not be able to get care as early in pregnancy as we might like them to, which we know that if underlying health conditions are not treated properly during the prenatal aspect of care, that could lead to delivery or problems for both mom and baby.
How does a woman navigate her pregnancy if she lives in one of these underserved communities?
It certainly can be more challenging, but I would encourage them to reach out to any local healthcare providers that are there. They can help them navigate the system. They can also reach out to their local health departments and things of that nature that can help guide them if they're having difficulties accessing care themselves.
You have extensive experience addressing maternal health access. What's the solution here? How do you bring care closer to families?
Like I said earlier, I think it's a multifactorial solution. I think one of them is we need to expand the types of clinicians that are able to provide this care in rural communities to include certified nurse midwives. We need to look at how hospitals or birth centers are reimbursed in these communities. And we need to re-examine the times that people need to be in the hospital, to how often these units have to be kept open in order to provide care to these patients.
Dr. Mark Simon, we so appreciate your insight and time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, why the University of Michigan will give freshmen a break from grades. And fresh off receiving a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, the music group Intocable discusses how they came to be one of the most successful bands in Latin music. A major prediction market company is being sued over one of its betting categories. A university is dropping grades for its first semester, and it could soon be easier to tell if something is made with artificial intelligence. These stories and more in tonight's rundown. Flight tracking site FlightAware is suing prediction market company Kalshi for using the company's tracking data to allow people to place bets on flights. The company says Kalshi did not inform them about using their data and actually had an agreement with FlightAware not to use its data. Since discussions started, Kalshi has now added a disclaimer on its market pages for FlightAware, stating they have not been endorsed by the company or its affiliates. ABC News has reached out to Kalshi for comment. The University of Michigan is dropping grades for first semester freshmen. Instead of a letter grade, first semester transcripts will show pass or no credit. The pilot program is the university's effort to, quote, curb the mental health crisis unfolding among college students. It's set to start in fall of 2027. The Department of Transportation has hired more than 2,000 video gamers to become air traffic controllers. A new recruiting program launched in April is enticing gamers to put their skills to the test in the aviation industry. U.S. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy says 95% of the agency's hiring goal has now been met, saying the initiative supercharged the entire hiring process. Anthropic will now embed watermarks in Claude AI text. It is part of the company's commitments under the EU Artificial Intelligence Act, but will apply to text generated throughout the world. However, the company did say heavy editing can erase the mark and a watermark cannot guarantee AI use. Anthropic says the watermark will not be visible and won't change the ability to read the text. There will be no teardrops on Taylor Swift's guitar today.
Here's a reason for the teardrops on my guitar.
The 36-year-old global icon is the youngest inductee ever to be named into the Nashville Songwriter Hall of Fame. Swift said in a statement, quote, "To be honored by this city I love so much is a beautiful thing, and I'm very grateful." She will be inducted in a ceremony this fall. A 2-foot-long cottonmouth snake slithered its way into a high school football player's helmet in Arkansas. After about an hour of practicing, the student told coaches about some discomfort with his helmet, and they discovered the venomous snake. The reptile launched itself underneath the helmet's padding so deep that the officers called to the scene could not get the snake out. Animal Services had to submerge the helmet in water. They grabbed the snake when it came up for air. The student was not hurt and now has a new helmet. For more than 3 decades, Intocable has defined the sound of regional Mexican music, blending norteño and Tejano sounds to make something uniquely their own. Now the band is receiving a major honor as they reflect on their multi-generational reach. Our Jacqueline Lee sat down with them and has the story.
They're in the hearts and homes of so many generations of fans that span 3 decades. Banda Intocable, now experiencing once-in-a-lifetime recognition with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The group of 6 men are permanently leaving their mark.
I haven't processed it as it should. But yeah, no doubt we're happy for sure. And I think one day we're all going to come back in our own individual time as a tourist. And then we're going to see it, and then that's when it all is going to hit.
What do you think is the secret to your guys' success, both as a group and then also as a band to the whole world?
It's our secret. It's a secret.
I think trying to be authentic and true to ourselves, so that gives us, every time we even work on new music, it's a brand new journey. So I guess that makes it fresh for us every time. Be authentic. Whatever it is, be authentic, be you, so that way you don't have any regrets.
Founded by Ricardo Ricky Munoz and Rene Martinez, the group started in the early 90s in the small border town of Zapata, Texas. The band still remembers their first few trips to Los Angeles, long before they could have ever imagined having a star of their own.
I remember us coming back in the 90s, 96, 97. We, for the first time as a band, walking in this area here before we went to promotion, and it was like seeing the stars, it was like, I guarantee it crossed our minds if we ever had one.
Growing up, the band members say they absorbed everything around them, from Mexican music to American rock, country, Tejano, norteño, and even TV shows. That unique mix would eventually help define the Intocable sound.
I think we were just blessed to be born in the era where all this good music was coming out, and we were just absorbing all that good info, and then we,
Well, the era and the place we were born.
Yeah, for sure. When it was time to make music, we were just making music, what we felt, what we hear, whatever, all that.
Being in Zapata, what does Zapata give you that you could not get anywhere else?
Humbleness. But it's the town where I grew up, and, it's like time never passed.
The band is known for their timeless hits like the 1996 classic Y Todo Para Qué. Sueña, considered one of the most romantic Latin songs ever, that spent 13 weeks at #1 on Billboard's regional Mexican airplay chart. And more recent hits like Te Voy a Amar. And while 30 years in music is rare for any artist, 30 years together as one band is quite extraordinary. Lead singer Ricky Munoz credits therapy.
Can you talk about how therapy translates to how you make music?
Through therapy, trying to find the balance and understanding stuff and you know, try to understand my bandmates, what they go through with me, try to be in their shoes and try to understand, be more understanding about situations. Even lyrics, try to be more connected, deeper, love deeper.
Intocable says their success has never been about chasing trends.
We're not looking to like what other bands are doing. Okay, let's try to do it. Well, that's hitting for them. Maybe we need to try something like that for us. And we just stick to what we do.
Staying true to their roots is part of their identity. And as Mexican Americans, they say they've never felt forced to choose one side of their culture over the other.
We get the best of both worlds. I feel that like too many people feel like if I embrace my American roots too much, my Mexican roots are gonna be mad at me or vice versa. Embrace it, be proud, be happy, and embrace it. Don't ever apologize for that.
And they recognize the power of their platform with more than 10 million monthly listeners on Spotify, using their music to tell stories of love, heartbreak, and life along the border. With their song and short film Estamos Todos, the band explores a deeper conversation about division, immigration, and human connection.
Your chorus lyrics read, "Why do they fire bullets instead of love? Why do they separate us just for speaking?" You pause and then you say Spanish. Can you tell us about the approach you take when you're turning this complex, awful, often painful reality into music?
There was something haunting about the melody and the arrangement. So we would always come back, you know, what can we do with this song? We put it out because we felt we needed to say something, you know, and be vocal. And I mean, if you have the power to at least try to make people see, you know, have more empathy for others, and we can help, why not? You know, we can influence them through our music.
And Intocable's fans aren't just those who grew up with their music. A new generation is now discovering the band's catalog on social media.
I think what resonates is again, the realness of it. You know, the real stories, real music, and people connect.
The band racking up 2 Grammys, 3 Latin Grammys, more than 20 #1 hits on the Billboard charts, and now a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
When you look back on all of your accomplishments as a band, as people, what part has meant the most to you?
Creating music and being here for so long and being able to stand on the stage and to sold out crowds after 30 some years. We focus ourselves more on that, on continue doing great music, great stuff.
Our thanks to Jacqueline for that conversation. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Lindsay Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Have a great night.